Welcome, welcome, welcome. Season 3, Wind Down with Kev. I am Kevin Spann, the insurance guru, and I am so excited today. This season, the hashtag has changed the narrative and party people in the place to be. Trust me, we are going to change the narrative on this one. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of Wind Down with Kev. Party people in the place to be. I am so amped today. I have a wonderful guest, a beautiful guest, highly intelligent guest. She's amazing on so many levels. Mrs. Nikki Murphy.
Thank you so much for that warm introduction. I'm truly flattered.
Yes.
I'm so happy to be here. It's exciting to be able to cut up with you for this time. Well, I'm excited.
We definitely are going to cut up. We definitely are going to have some fun. So, a full disclosure, we have history. I know Nikki. She's a friend of my son's, but she is not here on any platonic basis. She is here on more than her own merit. So we're going to jump into it. So your self-described bio on IG, let me see if I did my homework and got it right. You describe yourself as poet, author,
yes,
real estate investor.
Yes.
What am I missing? I forgot a couple of things. Entrepreneur. Say that. So let's get away from your self-described bio.
I'm also diversity and inclusion.
That's what I missed.
Yes.
Diversity and inclusion. Now, we're going to have some fun with that diversity and inclusion because you talk diversity and inclusion, but then you posted some funny stuff that we're going to laugh about. You talked about being on vacation and doing stuff that some folks don't always do.
Yes,
So let's just have some fun. Let's start there. Let's start in the middle and we'll work our way around. Also, beautiful wife, mom. Shout out the hubby and shout out your beautiful child.
My husband of 7 years now, Dana Murphy, and I also have a 5-year-old, soon to be 6-year-old son, Jaden Murphy.
Outstanding. I love it. So you and your beautiful family, you're fresh back from vacation. Where'd you go?
Oh, we went to Dominican Republic.
To the DR.
Yes.
To the DR. How was that?
One of those places that's like free to go for COVID during this COVID time.
We'll take it.
Yeah,
We got to get out.
beautiful.
We got to breathe. We got to have some fun. Let's talk about the activities. What'd you do when you were there?
So when I was there, we did an excursion where we went ziplining. I ziplined for the first time.
Okay.
I mean, it was a lot for a first timer. 5 circuits. Over countryside, like this jungle area. It was insane. My 6-year-old or 5-year-old did it as well.
Oh my
husband, yeah. So we were the only black people.
and what you posted, let's just keep it a buck with the people. Yes. You said you're out there and we're doing white people-ish out here. That's not for us. We don't zip line.
Oh my gosh. Well, we do zip line. But what happened was
Go ahead.
What happened was there was this group of like 20 or so people and all of the black people sat out.
We played the bench on this one.
Yes, they were like, "Oh no, we're gonna skip this one. We'll get y'all. We'll come back on the buggy ride." So I was like, okay, whatever. So we were the only black family.
I'm not mad at you. So people out there, we're going to talk diversity and inclusion. I have a broad group of friends. I do a lot of that. I play golf recently, all of that stuff. But heights, I struggle with. So help me with the heights.
See?
What sort of height and what sort of depth are we talking? How far above ground were you?
We were 100+ feet in the air.
Ah.
Yeah, long zip lines.
Oh my!
Very long. So it was a lot. I mean, I get why a lot of people sat it out, to be honest. But I'm not afraid of heights.
You're good.
So, for me, and also my husband was doing it. My 5-year-old was doing it. He ziplined before.
Okay.
Nothing like this.
So you got the courage from them.
I got the courage from them. I was looking around like there's no other,
Okay.
Black people
Nobody
doing
else
this.
on the
I
home
don't know.
team. So going forward, so people listening to this podcast or
Just
watching
do
it,
it.
would you encourage more of them to do it, or do
I
we belong on the
would.
bench?
No, it was so much fun.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I would definitely do it again. So definitely, even if you're the only one, just
Still do
step
it.
out there, yes, and do it.
I have a saying about that. If you're the only one in the room, you're in the right room.
Yeah,
You're in the right room. If you're the only one, you're in a room where you're navigating new territory, and be comfortable with it. And let them be comfortable with you. So it's a good thing.
I've been
But
the only one.
many
A lot of
times, many times. So your journey, let's talk about being the only one, your corporate path.
Yes.
Talk about some of your corporate experience.
Okay. So I started out of college at Deloitte. So I was
Yes.
hired by one of the big 4 accounting firms. I worked there for almost 10 years and went up through the ranks. I was often the only one. I was first generation college graduate in my family.
Yes.
So I didn't have anyone in my family that had been in a corporate career or anything like that. So I was really navigating corporate life on my own.
Yes.
Was successful in it and
Yes.
didn't enjoy it though.
Well, I have to tell you that I was a big fan of yours, just because of what you did and how you did it and where you came from. So, audience, Nikki is an alumni from my hometown, Wyandanch, 11798, Wyandanch Warriors.
Yes.
Stand up.
Stand up.
You know, top of the class,
In
right
the
at the top of the
building.
class,
Yes.
2004, class of 2004. Stand up, shout Nikki out. And you turned growing up in Wyandanch, first college graduate in your family. You start out at Stony Brook. You
Yes.
graduate from NYU.
Yes.
How many years in each place?
2 years in each place. I was determined to graduate on time, even though I was transferring.
Okay.
I took 18 credits at Stern School of Business and worked a job because I always had to work while I was in school. And I made it happen. So
And you
I'm
made it
very
happen.
Proud of that.
You made it happen. 18 credits is not a
Yes.
light workload.
No.
Not easy to do at NYU and to work. So the immediate question that pops into my mind, I know where NYU is at. I know it's in the Village. I
Yes.
know you have that incredible park there, and you got a million distractions. How in the world did you do your work and graduate from NYU? Were you just misstudious or did you have a good time?
Oh, I always have that. That's not even a question. So I think what helped though, at Stony Brook, there were parties every week.
Okay.
Thursday, Fridays, sometimes Saturdays, but mostly Thursdays or Fridays. So I went to parties every week at Stony Brook. At NYU, there weren't that many parties.
Okay.
So I was able to keep up
Okay.
with
Okay.
all the parties that were happening
Okay.
and still not sacrifice anything. But I was very strategic about how I laid out my schedule, how I did my work, having a job that was in an office where I could kind of do a little homework on the
Okay,
side.
I got it.
But I made things happen so that I'm not a workaholic. So if I can take off 4 hours and go to the club and then come back, and if I have to study,
Okay. You can do
I'll make
that.
it happen,
You can.
yes.
No, there's another part of that plan. And if you go to the
Yes.
club, you got to balance your intake, so you're still in a
Right.
homework state of mind when you
most
get back.
of the time I don't do homework after. But, I'll wake up early the next day. But whatever I had to do, I would get it done.
You did that. You did the thing. So
Suffer from FOMO, fear of missing out. So I'm always
fear of
gonna
missing
be-
out. I love that FOMO.
Always
That's
gonna
new
be
for
there.
me. FOMO, fear of missing out. That's brand new to me. I've never heard that. Everybody else is probably familiar. I'm probably late to the party with that. So you talk about, now there's people listen to this from other states. There's a big difference. Stony Brook is in eastern Suffolk County. It's a beautiful campus.
Yes.
It's very large, but it's isolated. So the only people coming to Stony Brook parties are students on campus. Mostly. A couple of people, hey, I've been there back in my day and my time. But NYU, that's a different animal.
That's
because
why.
it's not a campus, it's New York City as your
Exactly.
party background.
Exactly. So for at NYU, this is also the reason why there weren't as many parties, because people didn't feel the need. I was at a closed campus, so everyone felt the need to have a party at Stony Brook and such. But at NYU, New York City is your
That's
your
your campus. That's the campus.
So you go out with your friends. You don't really go to like a campus party or such. So I was going out with my friends sometimes, but I had also was just building my network of friends.
Okay.
And my friends were all in the business school as well. So they were pretty studious as well, knew they had to keep their grades up. So it wasn't a party all the time.
I got it.
kind of
Everybody
environment anyway.
everybody was doing what they were supposed to do.
Yeah.
So you graduate NYU, similar to what you did in Wyandanch, right near the top of the class?
Oh, no.
Not the same
right
thing? Not that?
It was good.
It was good.
But I'll tell you something. When I first transferred to NYU, my very first semester, I don't know if I damn near failed.
Okay. Just talk. We okay.
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 So I, for the first time in my life, I gotten like C's. I was literally like, okay, I had a 2.5 GPA. All of my GPA from Stony Brook doesn't count.
Okay.
Here. So I started with a 2.5 GPA that first semester, and I ended up working my behind off.
Okay.
To graduate.
Okay.
Getting 3.7s the rest of the semester.
Let's
graduate,
go.
right? So I was really suffering from imposter syndrome when I transferred there.
Okay.
Because it was like I was a very, very small population of Black people.
Right.
And the Black people that were there were usually from two-parent homes, second generation, or their parents, went to college.
Okay.
And so I felt like I'm just this girl from Wyandanch. I'm this girl from the hood. Like,
Right.
I don't belong here.
Right.
And so I really, for the first time, felt how I'd never been in a competitive environment like that. So the first semester was just kind of like, wow, I'm really lost.
It's a big situation. It's a big situation for anybody to be in that environment. I mean, people come from across the country to go to NYU. There's somebody from Iowa that comes to NYU that's never seen anything like it. Yeah. But you turn the corner and you turn that 2.5 and a 3.75, which was necessary to get into a Power 4 accounting firm.
Absolutely.
They don't talk to C's. You can't see a C.
Exactly.
You can't see a C there.
You can't even apply to these positions if you don't have a 3.0 or better. Sometimes 3.5 or better. So I definitely had to do what I had to do because I didn't make all of this sacrifice. That was the other thing. It's expensive.
Of course it is.
And even though that's why I tried to finish in the 2 years, but I didn't have financial aid. Well, I had some financial aid, some scholarship, some academic scholarship, but still I had $33,000 I had to come up with each year.
That's a big number.
Each year. I graduated with $80,000 in debt.
That's a big number.
I needed to make something happen.
Yes.
And I needed to pursue a career that was going to reimburse me for my investment.
That's interesting that was your perspective.
Oh, yeah. That's why I studied finance.
Not pay you just to make X amount of dollars, 5 figures, 6 figures.
No.
You felt that your journey in the corporate world, they need to reimburse you for your investment because it was your investment.
Yes.
That $33,000 you needed, you earned that on your own?
I took out student loans.
Okay.
I paid it off on my own.
Okay. Let's go. Let's go.
Yes, I did.
Love and respect that to the highest degree. Talk about getting into Deloitte, into a Power 4 company. So just for the audience, tell people what it is, what the Power 4 is.
Okay, so there are these big four, about 4 professional services firms that service all of the big name companies that you can think of in terms of doing their taxes, their audits, anything they need. They go to these kind of big 4 firms. And so you're consulting. And you, for example, don't really have a home base. You're usually out at your client's office. So I may be at, I can throw out make-believe names, but like Google, who was never one of my clients, but I could be, at Google for a few months on a project and travel to somewhere else. I was in financial services, so most of my projects were in New York City. I was on Wall Street for a number of years. Working on Lehman Brothers liquidation. So when all these big banks fall,
so we're talking from a time period standpoint. You're there at the recession, 08, 09.
Oh.
We're there. What are you doing specifically while the world is falling apart? Are you looking at...
Well, specifically when the world was falling apart in 2008, I was just graduating from college and starting my career. So it was a very unstable time for us, our
Yes.
class.
Yes.
Because it was like we got hired, but we could get fired.
Yes.
Because people were getting laid off, and we were the first or the last in. So last in, first out. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we were always just nervous for our jobs. A lot of people that I graduated with, they did get let go in the year, following when they got hired because of the recession and such. So I knew people that moved back home, like everything. It was really bad. So I was fortunate to just keep my time. It was kind of heads down. And that's how you were treated as well. Like, you should be glad you have a job.
Absolutely.
Right. And so it's really already a workhorse culture in those types of firms anyway. You got to prove yourself. You got to go up the ranks. Everything's very hierarchical. But during that time, it was just like, okay, we just need to get through this.
Just survive it. So give the people a sense of workhorse. People think workhorse, they think heavy lifting and getting dirty. Let's talk about hours. What's a typical day?
Oh gosh, I don't know what a typical day is. I will tell you, when I first started, I made the rookie mistake of coming in at like 8 or 9. And trying to leave at 6.
Oh, you late.
Ooh.
You late, and you leaving early. You leaving early. That's not how it works.
What my mentality was like, I'm good at my job. I'm efficient. I'm not talking and going to have lunch and do all that. I'm trying to get my work done. I have good relationships with the client. They love me. I'm getting things done. Everyone around me is working so slow because they know they're going to be here till 9 o'clock at night anyway. So everyone's kind of like lollygagging and things. And I'm just like, well, I'm done. And then they're like, well, you can help such and such out. And I'm like, my reward for being good?
Yes.
I got to pick up his slack?
So that's corporate culture.
That is.
That's corporate culture. I remember being hired when I first started at Allstate in an inside position. In the interview process, it was explained to me there were certain times year-end was important to us, and you were not to make any plans to leave early ever at year-end, even if everything was done for yourself and your team. Right. And one time, about 2 or 3 years in, I left at 6 instead of 7, and my hiring manager, I call him up, we're still friends. His eyes walked me across the floor, and the next morning we had that uncomfortable conversation of, do you remember what we talked about in the interview? I said, yes. He said, but you left. And I said, I explained that my work was done. I looked out for my teammates. He said, but you said. So you got reinforced. So let me ask you a question. Go ahead.
I want to say, though, it's very good that person talked to you before and right after.
Yes.
My experience was that no one told me
That's
before.
That's what I wanted to ask you. Did you have a mentor?
I did not have a mentor.
Okay. Mentoring is everything because there's a mindset of my work, and then every company has a corporate culture, which is unwritten and unsaid, but very much expected. And if no one tells you what those rules are, you're going to be in the dark, and that time frame is just the first part of the conversation that you didn't know, and that you didn't know you were doing anything wrong.
Yes. So that happened to me. And the only reason why I knew I'd done something wrong was after the whole project was over. I received my project evaluation.
Yes.
So my managers had to, do the paperwork and submit how I did. Of course, I'm expecting to receive flying colors, above average. I did all my work. The client loved me, everything. And then I got an average rating, which already I was like, average.
Yes. We're back to the C's again.
Right, average.
We're back to the C's. We don't do C's.
Yeah, but then the feedback, and it was still not specific. It was, needs to maintain a positive attitude.
Yes.
And I'm like, what does that mean?
Yes.
I was friendly. I didn't kiki with everyone, but I was friendly. I spoke in the morning. So it really took some digging. And I found a mentor after that. So
yes.
The next project that I worked on, there was a director who took a keen interest in me, knew my story, my background, had heard about the previous project. I had a reputation
yes.
now.
Yeah. Oh, they're talking. You're the coffee conversation. And if you're not coming in early enough to have coffee with people that matter, and if you're not going out late enough to have drinks with people that matter, that
and
can
lunches too can be
and
very
lunches.
important.
Lunches are powerful.
Yeah.
Lunches are critical. So let's go in the beginning. You're getting there at 8, so you're too late for coffee. The early people are there at 5 in the morning. Are you eating alone at your desk?
I am eating alone, and this is the reason why in this first project I was eating alone. because one, I commuted from Long Island. I was commuting from Wyandanch at the time.
I understand.
So it
Been
was
there.
a long commute. I was getting there when I needed to get there. On time, early even, but not early enough, right?
Yes.
So, but then I felt like my lunch hour was my only time to myself. And I'm also an introvert. So I'm not naturally someone who's going to like, hey, let's all go out to lunch, or, you know. So I was just kind of like, okay, now I can check my phone. I've been in this dungeon. A lot of times when you're in audit or on audit teams, they give you the worst conference room or the dungeon down with no reception. So I'm coming up for air, checking my phone. I'm in downtown Brooklyn, going to check out different places to eat. And so I was just doing this, you know, like this is my time to like be myself, because if you realize, especially as a Black person in corporate America, you have like a face on. Your first project, your first, you know, like I was finally able to breathe in my lunch
You're
break.
trying to do that, and what they didn't explain to you that part of the salary was we were buying your time. So Nick, let's talk about the cream for a second. You don't have to say
Yes.
dollar figures. Was it a very nice, attractive salary?
I was disappointed. So I will tell numbers.
Okay,
I was
go for it.
expecting when I graduated to make $80,000.
Okay.
Because that's what I heard from other people. Now, other people went into investment banking, and I didn't go into investment banking because I prioritized my life, and I was like, I don't want to be working those crazy hours.
Okay.
So I chose to go into this, which I thought would be reasonable hours. But yeah, so I thought I was going to be making $80,000. I got an offer for $55,000.
Okay.
Which was fine.
Outstanding. That's
It was still good,
that's a
right.
good number. Is '08 when people that were making high six figures were being let go.
Yes.
They were being let go, walked out, and resumed a new career. So 55 that time, above average salary for incomes in America. But go ahead.
Yes, and they were giving it to we coming in classes.
Yes.
So like pretty much they don't want to give
Separate.
different salaries to different people off the rep. So everyone have the same salary. Then you perform, and then things get shifted as you go up. So it took me about 4 or 5 years to hit six figures.
Okay.
About 5 years when I became manager,
Okay.
I hit six figures. And I soon realized, too, that this career, I tried to make it work. I tried to make it work for almost 10 years. Different projects, different people, different industries. I was switching around into different groups, going from audits to regulatory consulting, helping people get in compliance with different regulations that were coming out, where I felt like I was more helpful than auditing.
Got it.
So I liked the people. I liked my teams. I started to open up more and be myself, which
Yes.
was really like,
Yes.
whew, then
Yes.
I didn't mind being at work
Yes.
as much.
Yes.
Because I was just, and then, I pulled friends from wherever I was. People like to laugh. People like to have fun, and I like to have fun. So I met so many great people, but ultimately it was around, people knew I mentored. So I mentored at high schools. I did a lot of mentorship programs through Deloitte.
Excellent.
And otherwise, I worked with College Summit. So I was really...
Deloitte is very active.
Yes.
They actively recruit from HBCUs. They actively go to Binghamton and other colleges,
Yes.
really to have an inclusive environment to get you in.
Yes.
But the culture, once you get there, the mentorship is something that's often missing from a lot of companies. So fast forward from go ahead.
Yeah,
Come on.
they're starting to pick that up. So I moved into diversity and inclusion while I was at Deloitte. Started a little. It was a part-time gig, which really meant it was supposed to be 50% of my workload, but it was really 50 plus the 100%. So, but around the shootings of Philando Castile and Alton Sterling, I felt moved to move into diversity and inclusion full time. I wanted to do something more for Black people, for people of color, and anyone who was marginalized to really help them out. And I didn't want to give up on corporate yet.
Got it.
Because one, I had bills to pay.
Yes.
I had invested a lot of time in this career path, but then also because I felt like we need this avenue too to be able to create wealth. Like not everyone's going to be an entrepreneur and build billion-dollar businesses.
It's very important, and hence our conversation having depth. You coming from Wyandanch, coming from the family that you come from, we're from an economically disadvantaged area, but you came, you finish college. There's an expectation, although there isn't maybe a whole lot of mentorship and guidance to get you through it.
Yes.
That this is the path. Girl, you there.
Yes.
You got to stay. You
Just
got to
stay.
endure. And there's nobody for you to talk to navigate the challenges in that environment. But yet you're feeling that things are going on and you're making money, but you're not happy.
Not happy. And my mentors at work, partners that I've worked with, all, great people. I had a lot of white male mentors.
Excellent.
Have been one of the best mentors that I've had. Also white women. So I never really found a black mentor. So I'll say that, like, you don't have to look for someone who looks like you, right? But I've gotten a lot of value out of the people that have invested in me and been a sponsor or a mentor to me. But they didn't get it. They didn't get why I would walk away from a promising career on a partner path, to go and do something that was HR.
That was
Right? It was like soft.
that was different, and we could do a whole nother thing on the partner path and what that means into for you economically, because that would put a zero behind the 55.
Oh yeah.
In short order.
Yeah.
In short order. So
It would have been a big sacrifice for me, and I don't know if I would have. It wasn't guaranteed, right? It was just they believed in me and my potential.
And that's a beautiful thing. So you navigated. You had a shot at the title. You were clear on the sacrifice that was involved of sacrificing
For the next
time
few
for
years.
money, right?
Yes.
Because what no one tells anyone that accepting a job, and it doesn't matter if you're accepting a job, retail, fast food, insurance, accounting, I'm paying you money for your time.
Yes.
And I'm buying all of your time for the designated amount of time and hours that are involved. But there's something embedded in us, there's an American thing called freedom that sometimes people want to pursue, and there are words and corporate phrases like work and family balance that even with more money you didn't think you could achieve.
Right.
So
And I had a baby.
And you had
as
a
well,
baby.
so that happened.
That's a trigger.
That happened.
So the baby, he's coming into the world. You're expecting at the end of your corporate journey. Talk about that.
Yeah, so I got pregnant while I was at Deloitte doing that diversity and inclusion thing. And I will say that having a child really caused me to examine what I wanted to do, where I wanted to invest my time, because now my time wasn't just my own.
Yes.
I was now leaving my son to be cared for by someone else to do this job. And is it worth the sacrifice? So I had to really sit with that and see if this job was worth that sacrifice.
And that's a hard one to come up with from an economic standpoint. That's
Yes.
really hard to answer it that way. Are you still commuting from Long Island to the city at this time, or had you moved in?
I moved to Queens, right, like 6 months into working at Deloitte. So I realized I couldn't do that commute anymore. I needed to be closer. And so I moved to Queens and had been between Queens and Brooklyn for that whole time I was at Deloitte. I came back to Long Island just a couple of 6 years ago in Freeport, Nassau County.
Okay.
So that my commute would not be as bad, but I wanted a house and I wanted a yard. So
There you go.
I came to buy my first house back in Long Island when I was pregnant, actually.
Okay.
So lots of changes happened when I was pregnant. I'm like, okay, let's get a house. Let's also, I had to think about what I wanted to do. And it was actually, I had 2 work-induced panic attacks.
Ooh.
That it really caused me to be like, I have to step away from this job. It's literally killing. Like, I'm literally so unhappy and feel so out of control. And like, my baby needs me, everyone needs me, and I don't have any time for myself. I don't have time to do anything. I don't like what I'm doing. I hate my teams, like everything, right? So I was just in this really, really dark place. And it took me having 2 panic attacks to finally have a conversation with my husband and being like, I don't even want to go to work on Monday.
Right.
And he had to like give me the permission to be like, if it's killing you, if it's causing you that much pain, forget about it. Why are you doing it?
Yes.
And
Shout out to hubby.
yes, shout out to him. So after that, I prayed about it, went to church. I felt like I got some confirmation. I felt at peace with my decision. I came in and I told them I would like to leave. My partners told me, Monique, take a sabbatical.
Okay. Okay.
Take a sabbatical, take 6 months, however much time you need. It was up to 6 months. Figure it out. You don't have another job. You have a baby. Like they were like,
Insurance.
girl, you could do what you want, but don't jump off the sledge. This firm has you've given so much to this firm. Allow the firm to take care of you for a little bit.
Well, that's a beautiful answer. Shout out to Deloitte and Touche. That's well done.
So I did take a paid sabbatical. It was partially paid. It was enough to keep our health insurance and things. And but most part we didn't have any income coming in.
Okay.
But so we tried to make ends meet. We paused everything, but in those 6 months, I took some time to figure out what I wanted to do and that I wanted to go into diversity and inclusion full time. I landed a job at New York Life Insurance Company, corporate vice president of diversity and inclusion. I was willing to take a pay cut before when I went on this job search just because I wanted this career. And I knew that I had built all of this, track record, but it was in something else. So, but my experience translated, and I received 30% more than what I was getting paid.
Let's go.
I mean, I had an office. I had this beautiful title, a great team. I was just like, look at God.
And you're doing something that you're passionate about, and now you're positioning yourself to help your younger self and to help the corporation. So diversity and inclusion, what does that look like from a day-to-day job responsibility? Because to me, I'll tell you my expectation of it, but you tell it what it really is. It's kind of a job with dual responsibility. You have upward reporting responsibilities where you have to help New York Life as a company, right, to do the right thing by the employees.
Yes.
But then you're also receiving information from employees about it's New York Life's vision, and then it's the employees, it's my experience.
Yes.
So talk to me about that.
That is pretty much what the two things that I'm managing. So one, it's managing up, right? Developing presentations, getting strategy for how do we move the needle. Now, these needles haven't moved for 20 years. We're talking about financial services industry, a predominantly white male
industry. Yes.
Right. So it's going to take a lot to move the numbers, but thinking about strategy, reporting up on these things where we're making progress, where we have opportunities. But then also a big part of it was managing expectations for minorities in the company. So people of color, women, disabilities, so many different communities.
All diversities. There's so many diversities. Sometimes people think diversity, you just think black and white, but it's so much broader than that. I'll share an experience I had early in my Allstate career to speak to an audience of 600 Allstate employees about diversity. And my take on it, and what's funny about it is you and I come from backgrounds with no diversity. There was no diversity in Wyandanch school. It was just us. Black. So we go into environments where you're expected to lead and help people understand us, but we don't necessarily have the background where we understand our coworkers and their perspective. So that's something different to navigate. How'd you navigate that space?
I luckily got a lot of acclamation to the broader world through NYU and through my experience at Deloitte. So I was used to being thrown in different environments, different projects, different teams, different types of people, different parts of the country. So I think that all battle tested me before I got to this role. So I am also someone who's pretty warm and approachable, and people tend to gravitate toward me and things. So I had a great time building relationships and building trust with people. And they knew that I was there because I cared. Right?
That's everything right there. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah. So people trusted me. So I think that helped a lot. And then the fact that I also was really real about where we could make improvements, and I didn't try to sugarcoat. So a lot of times people check out when someone from the company is still speaking corporate speak and still covering the firm and not acknowledging their pain points.
Absolutely.
So I try to acknowledge people's pain points, give them that validation. Mm-hmm. Right, and then talk about how we're addressing it. So that was my approach to it. That was how I handled it. I think I built pretty strong rapport amongst the variety of communities at the company, and I enjoyed it, and I was doing well, and I got more responsibility. I got a team, I got everything, but then 2020 happened.
I got it. 2020 happened to all of us. Everything comes to a screeching halt.
Yes. Working from home. I now don't have childcare, so I'm home with my 5-year-old. He was being homeschooled. Yeah, it was a lot. It was 4-year-old at the time. He was in pre-K, so we're doing the homeschool. I'm doing my conference calls, and the company, like everyone's going through this at the same time. So everyone's trying to be accommodating.
The whole world is in a place we've never been.
Right. Everyone's trying to be accommodating. It was a lot. I also was writing this book, Home for Hurricanes. So I'm writing the book. I started on it the year prior, and I knew that I wanted to publish it this year. And so I have all of these things happening. Then there's the murder of George Floyd.
Yes.
And now where we went from kind of COVID-19 transition, how do we support all of our communities as they're transitioning through to working from home, and what those implications are on teamwork, and where we may fall behind the cracks again, like Black people and people of color and minorities may not show up as much on the screen, like everything. So we're thinking through all of this. And then George Floyd happens, the murder of George Floyd, and it was a lot. So for me, as someone who cares about this personally, it feels personally like an advocate, and talking about these things and raising these issues and raising awareness. I'm speaking on this. I'm writing articles. I have so much to say. But when you're working for a company and you're at that level, you have to be cognizant of what you say, because whether you're reflecting the firm's views or not, it's going to be perceived that
you're
like,
speaking on behalf of New York Life and not on behalf of Nikki Murphy.
Right.
It's amazing to feel you talk about it, not listen to you, but to feel you talk about it, because the emotion is clear in your face, how you feel, that you felt it at a very deep, a very intimate, and a very personal level, as many people did.
Yes. So on top of that, my job now is to navigate. It's ramped up. Like, all the attention is on diversity and inclusion, and everybody wants everything, and they want it now. They want education. They want to be the best equipped person to know what to do when they face a Black person in the park. Like, it's just like, okay, let's educate people on this. Let's educate people on systemic racism. Let's educate people on. So it just became this like, all right, we got to get in front of people. We got to show we're handling this. And that's the response of every corporation during that time. You have to.
It's overwhelming. So the backdrop, everyone knows the George Floyd story. Let's date it, June 2020?
June 2020.
June 2020. Everyone knows the story, what happened. We won't get into that now. You know what you felt. Corporate-wise, your job, I'm going to guess and correct me, some of the numbers you probably were driving was the number of diversity, representation at various levels, executive level,
promotions,
employees, promotions, make sure there's no problems.
Mm-hmm.
All companies at some point in their past have lawsuits, so they want to get better. And it's numerical. So it has that accounting parallel. There's a number you're accountable for, and there's a goal you're working towards. Even though it's HR and diversity, you have an end goal.
Just like any business.
New York Life is a financial services company, just like Allstate, numbers-driven company. They do a lot of wonderful things, but it's a for-profit company, and there are numbers that must be hit.
Mm-hmm.
And this happens, and the world is upside down, and now things that were unspoken and undone that wasn't a part of your corporate packet of what to do. Now there's an expectation. Let's get Nikki. Nikki's from Wyandanch. She'll know what to do.
Well, yeah, and I'm in the role. Right. So
yes.
I have to know what to do. So that was fun. And so I was navigating my team through that. Also feeling this dual thing, because there's the Black community that also is rightfully so demanding certain things. I was very proud, demanding certain things to hold the company accountable, which is great. And, and I'm, wearing my multiple hats and really just, and then at night, and then everything. So it was just a lot going on. And for me, it was also my birthday in June. And my birthdays tend to be very reflective time for me, where I kind of evaluate how my life is going, where I might want to make some changes. So I was already kind of like, okay, I really want to publish this book. I'm feeling like I don't have capacity to do everything that I want to do. And I feel like my voice, I kept feeling very strongly that my voice needed to be heard outside of this one corporation, right? And so I prayed about it, everything. And in July, I ended up giving my notice that I would be leaving. No other job, no other prospects in the middle of a pandemic. But yeah, I resigned. A lot of it had to do with also my son, right? I wanted to be, it was a real struggle to try to manage all of that. And it was summertime now, so there was not even a school Zoom to put him on.
Right. No.
So, I also wanted to be present for that. And I always, after the first time I took that sabbatical at Deloitte, I've always now looked at things as my career is the rest of my life, right? If I take a break in a pandemic, no one's going to shoot me.
No one's going.
Right?
Everybody's going
no one's
through
going to crucify me
absolutely.
for leaving my job during a pandemic. And I know what I've done. I know my accomplishments. I know my resume, and I know that if I wanted to pick a job back up, I could. So for me, it was about making a decision that was going to honor myself and my family at that time. And I chose to make that decision to step away and to pursue and really give my all to this book. And finish it up and really be able to promote it. Because otherwise I was just doing it almost as like a hobby.
As a hobby on the side. So
right.
You answered a question that I ask everybody this season, and we're going to shift directions into the book.
Mm-hmm.
This season, and the reason that I wanted you here as a guest is because collectively we all went through the pandemic.
Yes.
Some people have gone through it and come out on the other side. Some people are still in it. It's technically not over. We're filming this in the middle of October of 2021. But there's a series of people, all my guests that I selected this season, I thought they did a great job of changing their narrative and changing their direction. Mm-hmm. So where did that courage come from for you to change your narrative? How did you get the courage to really dig into the book? And then we're going to get into the book right after that.
Yeah, so the courage, I think, came from having done it before without having as much courage, right? So I had done that sabbatical thing where I was like, my identity has always been very closely tied to my accomplishments, whether it was academic or career. So for me to break that tie that one time and say, okay, I'm worth more than this. I am more than my title. I'm more than who I am to Deloitte.
Right.
And that kind of laid the foundation for me to be able to be like, okay, well, I did it that time and I was okay. So now this time, this is what I want to do. I'm writing. I want to present myself as an author. And I really need to lean into this. And I just did it, and I felt very strongly too, the big factor in it all was God. So I'm Christian. I pray, go to church, all the whole nine, read my Bible. And so for me, when it came time to write this book, I didn't even think it was a book, right? I was just writing poetry, and that was in 2017 when I took that sabbatical. And this is how things come full circle. And that sabbatical, I was writing poems. We also went to our first property auction to buy a home, an investment property. We won the auction with no jobs, at everything. And we got that property and we made it work and we made that happen. And then now we have a very prominent real estate portfolio. So for me, the 2007 sabbatical, that stepping out on faith and trusting that had led to so much fruit.
Yes.
That I was like, okay, when God told me that I had a book, all I had to do was pull together these poems. And I'm like on the Long Island Railroad, like, really? A book?
Yes.
Would anyone want to hear my poems? Like, I'm not even a poet. I don't never put a poem out publicly. Like, what? So for me, when I, heard that, and I was like, well, I think I could just pull it together. I mean, I don't have to publicize it or anything. Right. I could just make the book.
Right.
And so I started working on it. And then, when it became this time in Georgia, like, I think the whole environment of the moment and feeling like I was playing, I always feel before I make a big transition that I'm playing too small. So I challenge myself with
Ooh.
that. Like, I feel like I'm playing too small in this moment.
That's a clip right there for my editors. Get this in that I think I'm playing too small. Go ahead. What do you mean by you're playing too small?
Yeah, so what we get in these grooves of where we can, reach certain heights, but then we get really comfortable
Yes.
and secure
Yes.
in the path that we're on. But then you'll feel something inside, like you need to be doing something more. You need to be doing something or affecting more people or what have you. And so I would get these feelings
Yes.
before and I would fight it like
Yes.
hell.
Yes.
Like, no, I have a secure job. I'm making all this money.
Yes.
Like,
Only
people
one
have
in the
never seen
family.
Right. We got
This is what I'm
real
supposed to
estate.
do. Yeah.
We got these bills.
Yes.
Like all of this. And it's like, all of these things are happening. Like, how could, what more could happen?
Yes.
But and then when I feel like I'm playing too small, though, like when I start to have dreams or feelings that are bigger than the moment that I'm in and the life that I'm living, then that's when I know I need to pivot.
There you go.
So for me, in that moment, it was like, okay, I'm working this job, I'm grinding, I'm behind the scenes. In terms of the broader world, I'm grinding. People know me in my company, and I'm a very visible role. So I just felt like I have all of this. Like, they don't even know that I'm this. Like, only I knew this.
Yes.
So it's like I knew that, and my husband, because I read some stuff to him, but like nobody knew this. But I had to believe in myself.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I got something worth sharing with the world. And people kept thinking this, even when I was in corporate, and they said, you're on the partner track. What makes you think you would go in HR? Like, why would you do that? But it's like, I know who I am, and I know what I'm good at.
And that's the most valuable lesson anybody can learn in the world. If you don't learn anything else except for who you are,
yes,
you're incredibly wealthy, not financially. You're incredibly wealthy because you know who you are.
Yes.
And there's only one Nikki Murphy.
Yes.
So people, this is incredible. I'm going to do the best job I can asking you about the book. It's so rich and so deep. There's no way I'm going to do this part of the interview justice, but let me begin. Let's begin with Roman.
Okay.
Let's begin with Roman. Roman is one of the poems in the book. So can you treat the people to a read of Roman?
Sure. I can open it up, but I kind of know it.
If you want to do
I've performed it so many
please,
times.
and please perform it. Don't read it. Please perform it.
Okay.
If you need to stand, whatever you need to do, please perform it. I want the audience to feel it.
Okay. Let me get myself together. Is the mic okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Can we raise it, or is it good? Will it pick it up? Okay, let's raise it up. Let's raise the mic up.
Is it this one?
Can you raise it up? We'll edit this out. We'll bridge it
Okay.
out just so it comes in real natural. And come up. Okay, and what I'm going to say is a bridge, so I'm going to just say a bridge so it's clean afterwards. Okay, and right now, Nikki Murphy reading the first poem that captured me the most in the book. Nikki.
Okay. For Roman. It was a nice campus, but the flowers seemed a little too bright. The other kids in the program, a little too white. Then I spotted you. Us, two teens from the same school in a lab with goggles, beakers, real science tools, and experiment. The subjects, me and you, taken out of our element to learn something new, adapting, pouring solution from a beaker to a flask, and when I needed help, I didn't even have to ask. Bonding, we learned how opposites attract and how when separated, magnetic force could pull them right back. When you left, I didn't have your number and you didn't have mine, and after school, I went to college and you stayed behind. Next time I'd see you, 6 years, far too late. You'd be dressed to kill, and I'd be at your wake. And all the article's comments would paint a distorted picture that somehow your life was deserving of that trigger. Trolls telling the world how much they hate our town and how they can't drive through, so they gotta drive around, and how they wish that we'd all just kill each other. A murder in March? Damn, it ain't even summer. I wanted to respond and tell him about the guy I knew, how it was all about the team and never once about you. I wanted to respond and tell him about the guy you used to be and how you smiled and joked around even more than me, how you'd measure the liquid, fill it in the glass, apply the heat, sit back smiling, waiting for the gas, how polite you were on that ride home with my mother, and how you never even missed a single session that summer. I hate that in your death, your life was misunderstood. Where I saw a smiling scientist, they saw a thug from the hood. But I know a sinner can be forgiven, so I pray that you are in a lab room in heaven. And maybe it was you that caused that last thunderstorm, that rainbow or day that was a little too warm. Perhaps you're petitioning for every dope boy and trap queen, asking God to shine a light on the rock and hard place they're stuck in between. And while you're up there talking with him, I'll be down here trying to change the world from within. And sometimes I wonder how things would have been if maybe after school you had enrolled at UPenn and studied math or science while the rain falls from a cloud, then come back to the hood and make everybody proud. I wish I would have told you what the counselors told me, that things could be different if you get a degree, and how sometimes you have to leave your comfort zone and go away, even if it means leaving mom at home alone. Until now, I didn't notice how your death affected me, how in the same year that you died, I started mentoring. So now I go into schools without laboratories and tell the kids about the power in their stories. Record them on a tract, act it out in a play, type it up and submit it as a college essay. They smile like you because they got something to say. And to change the world, we gotta fight in more than one way. So I tell the kids that college is popping and how even with no money, they still got a few options. And though it seems like you're signing up for years of strife, a student loan is a small price to pay for a life. So I enroll a kid in a college course, and this is how I channel my survivor's remorse. Look at you, started a revolution, and you ain't even know it. Your blood's the ink in the pen, moved by a poet. Our story, I'll put it in a poem for Roman, a soldier shot on his way home. Thank you.
No. Thank you. That poem is so powerful. It's so powerful. And I could talk for you to. Well, you have to shake. It's deep. You captured so much of what so many people feel so often when we have these losses. It becomes a Facebook post on IG story or comments below. It minimizes who these people are. I'm choosing it carefully, not who they were, but who these people are. And you tapped into my emotions with that because I didn't know Roman, but I know Roman, several. Several Romans. And I think a certain audience that's listening to it does as well. So let me ask, Roman is not a fictional poem. Roman is a real person.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So it was a real person I went to a summer science program with when I was 16. He went to my school. We didn't really talk because I was in the honors class and he was in another class. And like right then, it was kind of like the separation of who, we had all of our classes with our group. And, so the only time we really commingled with other students was at lunch or recess. So, and I wasn't allowed to go out to parties or anything.
Got it.
So we just really never were in the same circle until we had this summer science program. And it's so funny because we had this science program. We were good friends during the science program. It was just 4 of us from our school, 3 or 4.
Where's the science program at?
It was at what's Dowling, I believe.
Dowling College, Wyandanch Dowling College. Oh,
Yes.
I like that. Every
So
Saturday?
it's on a college campus. It was once a week. I think it was every Saturday. And, they were taking kids from all the Long Island schools, and they included Wyandanch. And this time, a lot of times I had done these like little science programs because I was top of my class, so they would always select me. But this time, instead of it being just people from my honors class, it was actually, they did a mix of students. So they picked people that were in the honors class, but then also someone who had potential.
Nice.
Right? Which I love. So, it was exciting for me because now I'm getting to like be friends with people that aren't in the honors class. So Roman was the only person in my grade that was in the program. It was 4 of us, and the other people were more junior. But so he and I connected.
Of course.
But we, it was a friendship that we built over that summer. But then when we went back to school, we went back to our separate lives, right? And I graduated in 2 years later, went on to college. We did not keep in touch. And then I get the news that he passed. And then, this happens a lot. And you're like, damn, what happened? And you go back, see what time to wake, so I'm there and I'm at the church and everything. And, I feel like I have no rights to Roman, right? Because,
of course,
he was my friend for a period of time, right? But in reading all the, people Facebook, the comments, another thug and all of this stuff. And, I'm not saying anything about how he died or what happened.
It doesn't matter.
Is irrelevant,
it doesn't
right?
matter.
But who I knew, and I thought it was very important to highlight how people who, sometimes are demonized in death or in their later choices, we were all kids.
Yes.
And we were all innocent kids.
Of course.
And we were
all kids are innocent.
Yes.
100 forever.
Yes.
They're always innocent forever, and there's no details of what happened or how it happened is required at all. It's not required, but I think you relate to. We'll keep talking. They'll tell me when it's off on, and then we'll keep going. We'll pitch that out. Okay. Should we adjust the mic back down as well? Yeah. Let's just do that. We'll take a little break. We'll cut this clip. That was really, really rich and deep. That was something. Oh my God. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. All right. I won't ask you to read again. We'll talk through some.
Yes.
Yes. You good? You comfortable? Okay. And you guys can tell me when we're good to go when the cameras are good. You are good right now. Okay. Close the door and we're good. You good?
Was I finished? Was I still not?
No. We're okay. No, we're okay. They'll wave out. Editing is incredible. So thank you for sharing about Roman. I can see what that. I can see that's from your heart. These are not words. So, last question I want to ask about Roman. Did you write this right after you went to the wake? How far removed were you when you wrote it?
Maybe 5 or 6 years after. So I wrote this in 2017. He passed years before, I think in 2013.
Okay.
So this was something, and this is what was special about that sabbatical that I took and writing. I had no idea that these stories existed in my body.
Yes.
In my brain and my heart.
Yes.
And like, how long had I been holding on to my feel? Like, why would that even be on my mind? But this writing of this book and the poems, a lot of the poems that were in this book it was cathartic. It was like an experience where I would, right before I would go to bed, it's like I would just get a download and I'd be like up all night typing on my phone or on the computer and writing in notebooks. And it was just like all of this stuff. But I think, a lot of times we spend so much of our life living outside of our bodies and like just kind of growing through the motions.
Yes.
Right. And not really sitting with what we're feeling.
Busy being busy.
Yes. So for me, having this space for the first time in my life, I've been working since I was 15. So for the first time in my life, I'm having space.
Yes.
Margin.
Yes.
That's so important.
Yes.
To build some margin into your life. So I'm having this open space now, and now I'm feeling everything that I felt. I'm processing the loss of my grandmother from 2011 in 2017. I'm processing this with Roman now, which I believe was 2013 now in 2017. And so there was all of this like pain and undealt with emotions that I ended up getting out through writing, and it came in the form of poetry. I didn't set out to write poems.
It just happened.
It just happened that way.
So You brought her up. Let's talk about your grandmother. Your grandmother, widely loved.
Yes.
I attended her service. In honor of your grandmother, your family gives the largest, most well-attended party in Wyandanch every year. I saw you there this year.
Yeah.
It literally is a 2-day party. Everybody is invited. Your grandmother was a part of the motorcycle club, so all the bikers, they come down. Your uncles, who I know from school, major athletes. Shout out to Big Luke, both of you, Dwight and Daryl, and your other uncle name escapes me right now, David.
Yes.
But all major athletes. But your family gives this party all in honor of your grandmother. So let's talk about your grandmother for a minute.
Oh, my grandmother, Nana, she's amazing. She is someone who, and I'm so blessed to have grown up with her, because I think a lot of my resilience I can attribute to her. So my grandmother was, not your baking cookies, grandmother. She was real. She was in the streets.
Bike
she
riding
was
grandma.
in the community,
Yeah.
right? She would curse people out. She would curse me out. She was not, she had a big heart for people. So she took care of people. But she didn't have she wasn't always the nicest, words. She's a tough lover.
Okay.
And so, a lot of things. She also was my number one rider. If there was something that happened in school, I talk about even in this book where there were boys on the bus that used to touch me.
Okay.
And so I would come home crying. My mom, my grandmother would go up to the bus station, and she was the one who would be up there cursing everybody out.
Yes.
Y'all need to get a fucking bus monitor on this bus. She just gave it. So she was my number one, ride or die, girl.
With you. We're not having
Yes.
it.
We're not
This how we handle ourselves.
Yes. But even though she was that way, what I loved about it was that everyone in the community respected her. So people feared her, but people also respected her. They realized her love,
Hand
her
in
heart.
hand.
Yeah, so I never really wanted to be feared. I wanted to be liked. So
that's not what grandma taught you.
That's not what she taught me.
No, that's not the lesson. Respect those words, and they respect. Unfortunately, they respect the hand. So I love hearing that. She means the world to everybody. So you have 10 years of this party going on in honor of her, in honor of her life. More than 10.
I think
she passed away in.
She passed away 10 years ago, but she
used to give the party. She used to give the party years ago.
When I was in high school, 16 and so it's been a while.
Yes.
We just kept the legacy going.
So your grandmother, your house you grew up in, Brook Avenue, Boondocks, Wyandanch.
Yes.
Shout out to my wife that's from that block and everybody else from the Boondocks that represents Brook Avenue. But when y'all give this party, it shuts down.
It does.
Nikki, I'm a reader, right?
Yes.
So a book like this that's a novel is probably 2 days for me, tops.
Mm-hmm.
I have not finished this book because each time I read something, I process it and I feel it and I live with it. Yeah. So I'm not going to ask you to read again. I'll give you an emotional break.
Okay.
I'm going to try to find
an emotional break.
Yeah, because it's a lot. We need that.
It's a lot.
I'm going to try to find Daddy's Confession,
right.
page 47. And you wrote about your dad, rest in soul,
yes.
rest in peace. And you wrote, the poem you wrote about him was powerful. So I am not going to, I dog-eared it. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to attempt to be you. I won't do it justice. I can't read it. Can you read it? Then we'll talk about it. Okay.
I don't mind.
I don't want to drain you, but I want the or can you do it? I want to talk about it.
Draining for me.
Good.
Let's go. Okay. Daddy's confession. I remember the day my daddy confessed. I was a post-college adult in the backseat of a car with both my reunited and newly introduced half-siblings, the partition between my whole father and I, impressed in the way that I absorbed his unfiltered confessions of my then chronically ill and spiritually transformed father. He reflects on his life not knowing it would be over in 5 short years. First, he warned, "You'll probably hate me for this." Then, without a pause to even momentarily debate sharing, he confessed. Sins against desperate women. If there was anything to hate you for, might it have been the years of my life that you were absent? Not how you spent your time. Besides, I couldn't imagine it. Sure, he walked the neighborhood with a black and gold cane,
Yes.
gold rings on every finger,
Yes.
not to be overshadowed by the layers of gold chains donned around his neck like anchors, and years spent dressed in one loud color from head to toe, topped with a Kangol hat for good measure. Yes, he looked the part, and people joked of it. Still, it was hard to read intimidation when he always beamed a shining, dumbfounded, gold-toothed grin whenever he saw me, which was mostly every second Saturday in June, Wyandanch Day, when I walked over to him in the park and introduced myself. Hey. I'd pause uncomfortably for a few seconds while he tried to place where he knew me from. At my breaking point, it's Nikki. Then, there it was, that toothy grin and open embrace like I was an unexpected Amazon package arriving on his doorstep without his recalling having ordered just the thing he'd been looking for. His not knowing me upon initial greeting was a running joke between my homegirl and I. We would laugh about it afterward, in the way that teenagers laugh off the things that should hurt them. That unquick cheesing grin made it hard to imagine him a threat to anyone. He continued with stories about ex-lovers, about the violence, about getting run over by a car, the accident that resulted in extensive brain damage, causing him to have to relearn and remember many things, including that he had me. This accident hung over our relationship, or lack thereof, like a gray cloud unsure of whether to rain or run. Is the accident the reason he never recognized me? Or was it because he was never there? Was he not there because he didn't remember his connection to me? Or did he remember and choose to ignore my existence until we ran into each other in the neighborhood and did this song and dance about how proud he was of me and how pretty I was? I don't know. But I swallowed his confessions about everything but the obvious, like manna from heaven, because it was something to know about my father, that he recognized his unproud moments and he remembered. It would take me a while, years even, to understand that his karma found me even when he did not.
Oh, my God. My God. Dear Daddy. Daddy's confessions.
Yes.
Incredibly, incredibly powerful.
Thank you.
I knew your dad. Your description of his attire to a T. If there was a picture next to Fly Guy in the dictionary, your dad would be in it.
Oh, gosh.
The gold, the
Yes,
rings, the
the
Kango, the chains,
everything.
the dress
Gold
to the
teeth.
T, the gold
Yes.
teeth, the whole thing.
Yes.
That was your dad.
That was.
That was your dad, and you captured him very well, good and uncomfortable, and a lot resonated with me with this poem, Wyandanch Day,
Yes.
that you would run into him.
Yes. That's usually when I would see him. You know, he lived around the corner from me, but he wasn't in my life. So apart from a couple of times when I went over to ask for money for school clothes, I didn't have a relationship with him. So on Wyandanch Day, though, he is like a fixture in the community. Like, people know him. People for the longest time didn't know that was my father. I'm the top of my class, this like goody two-shoes kid. And like, people, when they started to realize when I was in middle school, they were like, that's your father?
Yeah.
You know, Randy is your dad?
Yes.
And I'm
Yes.
like, Yeah, so it kind of gave me a little bit of street cred, even though
That works.
not deserving. But I would see him on Wyandanch Day because, of course, every Wyandanch Day he's out.
Yes.
And I'm out.
Yes.
So we would congregate. Everyone comes to the park. A lot of times I was in the parade, dancing and things, and then would come to the park after and meet up with my friends and stuff, and I'd see him. And so, my friend and I, we would go over there. She'd be like, "That's your dad over there." And I'd go over and, say hi. He never knew who I was on initial,
right.
Hi, and then it took him a minute. And then he'd be like this. And I'd be like, "Okay, it's Nikki,"
Take him. I wish people would do that for me now. Yeah. God knows I forget names and faces and it's hard to remember. So thank God for your love and kindness.
Yes.
Let me ask you a question. How old were you when he had the accident?
I was in elementary school. I think I was in 3rd grade.
Okay.
When he had the accident. So it had already been years that I had not really seen him.
Okay. So there wasn't a pre-relationship strong before that?
No. From what I know from, my mom, she told me, he used to take me when I was a baby. When I was a baby, I would go over there and stuff sometimes. But I have no memory of...
Pictures? Good pictures from better times?
No pictures. So it's really, Wyandanch Day.
It's amazing. We give, as a part of Wyandanch Day, organizing and giving it for many years. And when I joined the committee, Charles Jazz Jackson, also a Brook Ave original, always told me, he said, "Kev, we do this for the people that are coming from out of town because they spend money to come back from the South to be in Wyandanch." Yeah. And here you are giving me a rich year because we're always focused on making sure it's worth their time and money that they came up. So we always wanted to elevate the day to make sure they had an incredible time while they were here. That's our driving force in the background. But here you are. You're running into your dad from one block over. Reunion, not with the class of 04, but with Dad.
With my father. So.
Oh my God!
It would be awkward, so we didn't spend a lot of time talking.
But it's
Wyandanch Day was more than that too. For me too. Well, one, I was in the parade a lot, but it also gave me a chance to showcase who I was outside of school, because a lot of people only knew me in school as an honor student, in my class and everything. But then Wyandanch Day, it's I can't hang out, but I can go out on Wyandanch Day.
You got Wyandanch Day. You got this.
So I can dress up.
You get dressed. You could dance.
Yes.
You could be seen. Yes. You could be cute. You could be courted.
Exactly.
All of the above. That's everybody's one shining moment.
One shot.
I loved it as a child, which is why I got involved in giving it again so people could see that joy. But Nikki, Wyandanch has to see you now.
I know. Oh, I do go to Wyandanch. In the middle school, I have a relationship with a guidance counselor there, so I've done a few things at the middle school. I've not done anything broader in the Wyandanch community, though, and I would love to. I spend time still there pretty regularly.
We're going to do something. I have an idea that I think we should take action on at about the time that we release this podcast. I have an idea. It started marinated with me this morning. I started... just visualizing what that should be. They should see you now.
Yes.
They should see you now. They need to see you now. Your story, you tell the story of your relationship with your father, who you knew, but was absent.
Right.
The absent father is one of the biggest challenges in our community. So even though you knew him, you probably were a step ahead of many of your friends that didn't even know who their dad was.
Right.
So in spite of everything.
I don't know if it's less painful, though. To know,
and I won't diminish it.
Right? To know somebody and know that they're right there and still.
What was that pain like?
For me, actually, growing up, I felt I didn't have any pain. And the reason why I felt that way, it didn't hit me until I was an adult. Mm-hmm. When I was growing up, I lacked for nothing. My mom made my life so rich, my family, everyone, Brook Avenue, all the kids. And then also, like you said, our community is not that diverse. So when I was growing up, everyone was Black, and not a lot of people had two parents in the home.
So you fit right in.
No one had a father.
Right.
So it was
I'm not laughing because it's funny, but your presentation of it.
It's
true. It's the reality.
And
you had very strong men.
Yes.
In your life, your uncles, correction officer, NYPD.
Yes.
So you had strong men, role models, in your life. No nonsense,
Right.
no playing.
No.
Nikki's off limits. The whole 9
Yeah,
yards. The whole 9
yeah.
yards. So
So
you
was
had
that.
a lot of strength. I want to deal with one more poem because you mentioned it when you were talking about what you went through in corporate America, and I was talking about the panic attacks. So I think that one
Yeah.
is really rich as well, and that's one of the ones that I happened to read this morning.
Oh.
And people, as Nikki accesses the poem, I want you to buy this book, and I want to tell you how to buy it. I want you to look at her website, www.nikkimurphy, that's Nikki hyphen Murphy, Murphy spelled phonetically, .com. And I want you to order it from her website, not from Amazon, because when you order it from her website, it's directly from her. All the authors and people out there know it's good to be on Amazon and accessible, but you're back to working for a company at a reduced commission as opposed to getting it all yourself. So
True.
when I
Thank you
called
for
you
that.
about this, I ordered mine right away, and you sent me an autographed copy, which was lovely. And you wrote me a beautiful note. It said, Kevin Spann, keep inspiring. You're built to withstand. Nikki Murphy. And that's powerful. You know, one, thank you for the inspirational message. Number two, your handwriting is fabulous. That's smooth. If I had a book, I couldn't autograph it that neatly and that message. So thank you. So let's talk about it.
Okay. So you want me to read this poem, Dear Diary, I'm having a panic attack?
Yeah, and the reason I want you to read that one is because of the pandemic time, admittedly or unadmittedly, everybody can use some time on somebody's couch.
Yeah. Ooh.
Everybody can use some time on somebody's couch talking about what they felt, and everybody needs to process what they felt in this, and that's part of changing the narrative as well. So I just want to get into depth with those panic attacks and what you felt.
Okay. Dear Diary, I'm having a panic attack. My mind tried to kill me last night. I know it doesn't make sense because you don't know how this feels like the last time that was like the last time that was like the first time he left me. The devil ignites tears, tantrums, wild punches, a radical escape from everyone. There is just me and my mind trying to kill the object I worshipped, a facade. Stupid. The whiz was just a man. Stupid. And I was just a fan. Stupid. God, I wish I was home. Oh yeah, I wrote this poem. I was trying to capture a lot. I suffered with depression from when I was a child. I would say around middle school and high school, it began to really come to a head for me. And it always was surrounding a guy breaking my heart or something of that nature. And I would just like completely lose it and feel like I don't even want to be here. What is my purpose? And people are not no one will ever love me. And I realized that probably was a father wound,
Right.
you know? But it took a lot, you know, we didn't do or have access to therapy then at that time. And I wouldn't have even welcomed that anyway at that time. But it took me a while, dealing with a lot of things, as work and having a baby. When I had those panic attacks, I started seeing a therapist.
Thank God.
Yes, and it really helped me to, one, learn techniques
Yes.
for when I have this, like, emotional flooding.
Yes.
Where you just kind of, like I would tell my therapist, I just spiral.
Yes.
Like, when I get sad, I spiral. And she's like, bring it back to the present. Here are some things you can do so that, what your mind is doing is it recalls all of the past times you felt that way. And it can flood you with all of these emotions. Your body just remembers all of that. And I have a poem in there about the body remembering too, because she made me realize that your body holds on to a lot of
Yes.
the trauma that
Yes.
you've been through. And so that flooding happens, but then you just have to have a technique to bring you back to the present moment so that all of that is not happening and kind of retrain your brain.
And you have that technique now, so when you're near your triggers, you can go to that place.
Yes.
That's one of the benefits of therapy. So we've talked a lot about our community in this. Other communities embrace therapy. Our community, it's always talk to the pastor. And the pastor may not be a therapist and may not have that information for you. How is having those coping techniques and those tools, how's that helped you?
It's helped me a lot. One, the techniques have helped me in the moment to not like go too deep or stay in a dark place for a long time, right? So the techniques have helped me in that way. But then also just talking through and realizing how things are connected and how, life is complicated.
Very.
Life is, and a lot of times you're like, once you make these connections, it's been easier for me to process things as they happen to me because I know what's being triggered and why.
Right.
So I can kind of disengage from it.
Right.
So I think the more that I learn about myself and my history and what things trigger me and why they trigger me because of these things, and I either can avoid or I can go into situations better prepared or be able to quickly get back to like rebound from some of these things because I know the context and I'm now I'm observing myself going through this and can like talk myself down versus just living in it and feeling like I'm out of control, right? It's like I can step back and see what's happening and why. And I still struggle through things.
It's part of it.
Yeah.
It never gets,
right?
there's no such places there where we arrive,
right.
where
or
healed or where life just gets easy.
Yeah.
There's not a financial solution for it. There's not a dollar figure for it. And you talked about something really important about what our body feels. We all want to put a good smile on, a good corporate face. What's up? It's all good. Everything good with you? Yes, yes, yes. Everyone wants to project it's all good. But a lot of times those suppressed feelings, we process physically in so many ways that people aren't even conscious of.
Absolutely. I learned that too in therapy. Like when I went in there and I tell them like what I'm doing, how I'm doing at work, and like what's going on in my life and my emotions. And they're like, you're like a master compartmentalizer. And I'm like, I am.
Yes,
so it's like, you can, stuff all of this stuff in the closet. You've not dealt with any of this stuff, but you're still successful in doing all of these things in this other tract. And so I'm just like, okay, so it's one thing, we may think of it as like a positive, and it is positive that I'm able to function and excel in this way, but then realizing that I need to actually deal with this stuff to stop having these like big explode, because it's going to come out.
Yes.
It has to come out.
Yes, yes, yeah, it's going to happen.
It's like either you come out and you deal with it in a more productive way where you're not exploding or having these huge meltdowns, and that can look like regular therapy, that can look like journaling or whatever you have to do to process things as they happen, or you can ignore it and then, you're on the roof somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's not a good place to be. And I've not been on the roof, but I've been there where I've...
In your thought processes where you've thought about it. How therapeutic was writing the book and just getting all of these years of feelings?
Oh, it was so therapeutic. And actually, I think that it's funny because it felt so good to get this stuff down on paper. And then also because it's like, it was so painful, but then it's now art, right? And it's now something beautiful. To me, at least.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful to me. Go ahead. I want to continue your butt first. Go ahead.
But yeah, it's so to have it be, it's like alchemy, right? Like I'm transforming this into something else, and it's like, wow, all of this pain, all of this emotions are now this, and this is something I love and can talk about and can stand behind. So I love that about it, and it was very cathartic to do this whole thing. It was a lot. It also brought up a lot of things that I had to deal with.
Yes.
So that was helpful. And a lot of this came out of, like, I started therapy, and then a lot of these memories and things were also coming up that I need to deal with and wrote about. So,
well, you're heavily tapped into both sides of your brain. On the one sense, you're this great student, financial,
type A, like analytic,
all of that stuff.
Yes.
But this is incredibly creative, and your writing style is beautiful. I read the haikus. I read the other things. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. But it's an incredible book. I want to encourage everybody to get it. This podcast will probably drop the week before Christmas. This is a wonderful gift. Gentlemen, the ladies in your life, this book. Ladies, this book. Book clubs, this book.
Yeah.
This
Even
is the book that I want you to
fathers.
get. Fathers, get it. Get to know your daughters because it's rich. Your journey, your arrangement of your chapters, it's your childhood, deep in your college years, your corporate experience, and now this experience. There's a level of depth in this book that I did not touch upon by design. Some things that ladies go through that I did not touch upon by design. Last question I'm asking you about the book that we're going to talk about you as a real estate investor and a new business venture that's coming up.
Okay.
Where does the title come from, Home for Hurricanes?
Ooh, so I use this metaphor to talk about myself. So I do have a picture of myself on the cover, and I felt like, I was the master compartmentalizer, right? So I was the home for all of these hurricanes that were happening inside of me, right? So this is a look into, that home and what that was like for me and the hurricanes that existed within myself. So it's the title, it's the cover art, it's all of it. So I organized the book into 4 chapters: home, closets, hurricanes, and rebuilding, so that you can go on the journey from home, which is like my childhood upbringing, a lot of Wyandanch stories in there, then to closets, the things we don't talk about, like that poem, The Panic Attacks, and things of that nature, and then hurricanes, which are like the crux of it, and trigger warning for sexual assault as well. So it talks about all of these like hard things that really, could have broke me, and then the rebuilding, which is the longest chapter, and obviously it's the longest process in life, right? Is picking yourself up and healing, going on that healing journey. So
I love it, and it would be appropriate to close here, but it would be incomplete. And I love you explaining how you compartmentalize it. So people, y'all know what I do for a living: hurricanes insurance. Hurricanes insurance. That's what I'm thinking. That's where my brain goes. But no, we're talking a internal storm.
Yes, internal storm.
And I think you've done a good job. The art is incredible. The writing is incredible. I want the diverse group of friends that I have, my black friends, my white friends, my male friends, my female friends, to get this book, because there's a level of depth in here that also gets to understanding diversity, inclusion, and maybe seeing some things from a different perspective than you've seen it from before, because I know there's some great poets in history and stuff like that we haven't read, but this is right now. This is written in 2020. It's what we're all experiencing right now, so I think it's completely relatable. Again, this will be dropping right for Crystal. Please pay attention. I network with a lot of realtors, and you are a real estate investor. Talk about real estate investing. Talk about how you got into it.
Okay, so back during that sabbatical, 2017, there was a house that went up for auction, and it happened to be a house. My husband was watching these auctions. We hadn't decided to invest, but we'd been interested in real estate, and he was looking at it more actively, like watching auctions and things. And so he left up on the computer one day. I just happened to walk by the computer, and there was an image of a house that I grew up playing in, right? It was a house across the street from where my house is that I grew up in Wyandanch. And so I saw the house, and I'm like, I know that house. I've been in that house. That was like the rich kids on the block's house, right? So, the ones that had all the Jordans, everything. I was like, I've been in that house. That house is so, like, we have to get
yes,
this
there are
house.
rich kids in Wyandanch. Go ahead.
Yes. I was like, we have to get this house. And so he was like, oh, yeah, I was looking, the auction is on Tuesday. And I was like, no, it's actually Monday. So we almost missed the auction. So we went to the auction, me, him, and Jaden. I didn't have childcare or anything. We were all home. And so we're there with the stroller at this auction on the steps, and contractors are there. Like no other like regular people. So we're just the only regular people. We took out our last $10,000 that we had in the bank. Again, he was out of work at that time, and I was also, in the sabbatical. So we were not financially in a position to be able to do this, but we did have faith. We prayed about it. We went. And we said we have this $10,000 check. You have to have 10% down. So we were like, if this house goes for more than $100,000, we can't do anything. But that'll be our cap. We went auction. Everyone was bidding. We won the auction. We didn't get anywhere close. We got it to 83,000 or
Nice.
so. Yeah, we got it, and we were like, oh crap, we got it. And you have to come up with the rest of the money in 30 days. We did what we had to do to take out loans and things to get the rest of the money to make it happen, finance the refurbish on our credit cards. And then once it got up in equity because we built it back up, then we were able to put a mortgage on it and get that money back out. So on the after rental value. So that was good. And then we just kept reinvesting in more houses over the years. So
you got a portfolio now.
Yeah, now we have a portfolio. So it all started with that one, though, and going there and doing it and just figuring out things as we went, which, is mostly my husband is like good for that. I like to have a plan.
I got it.
Before we go into anything.
That's the side. Everybody has to play their role in a relationship.
Yes, it's true.
Now, speaking of your husband, we have a new business venture. We okay to talk about that?
Yes, we are. So my husband and his partner, his cousin actually, both Black men, are opening a seafood restaurant.
Let's go.
Yes. Very excited about it. Bait and Hook LI is located in West Hempstead, 687 Woodfield Road. It should be open by the time this airs. We're opening for a grand opening in November of 2021.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so check us out. Bait and Hook LI. We are just fish and chips. It's a takeout spot. Uber Eats, do whatever you got to do. Come out and support. We're very excited. My husband is a chef. He's trained Culinary Institute, Le Cordon Bleu in Atlanta. Yeah, so he's worked in kitchens, Del Frisco, all the big steakhouses in New York City, and is now opening his own spot. And, we are investing in that and hoping that pays off amazingly. So that's our newest venture.
I love it. I saw the picture. I think you posted that yesterday. Yes. Bait and Hook LI. Only takeout or sit down as well?
There's just a few tables for sit down.
A few tables for sit down.
Mostly takeout.
Okay. I love it. Bait and Hook Culinary Train. Yes. We need that. We need that. We love seafood. Cannot wait to get there to show love and show support. Nikki, this has been incredible.
Thank you.
Incredible. A whole lot of fun talking to you about this, getting to know you better, hearing you perform the poem, just like everything in the world. I know we're here. I know you're marketing and blowing this book up. Tell the people what's next for Nikki Murphy. Tell everybody where they can find you at and what you're up to.
Okay, so I am also speaking. So I'm a speaker. I do speak on diversity and inclusion topics as well as resilience and purposeful living. So that's something that I am doing as well, in addition to promoting Still Herb for Hurricanes, which is available in all formats, including audiobook, which I recorded earlier this year. And then from there, too, I'm also creating artwork. I have prints and other things, launching an e-commerce site. So very exciting news. Follow me. I'm on Instagram, Facebook. I'm most active on Instagram, but all of my handles are at MRS Mrs. Nikki, Nikki Murphy. So you can find me on all the social media channels, and I would love to interact with you and stay connected.
I love it. I love it. I think you're incredible. Corporate folks, real estate network, corporate network, tap into her to have some conversations. We're still growing as a country, working around some issues. So wonderful person to bring into your offices and your agencies for some conversation. And I think she'll be dynamic. So I strongly endorse you. I strongly recommend you in everything that you do. And I have an idea that I can't wait to execute. Yes. That's it. Wind down with Kev. Thank everybody for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, click on the YouTube link below. Click subscribe, hit the notifications button, and definitely follow Nikki everywhere that she's at. Peace.
Thank you. Goodbye.